Today I'm going to talk to you about what you need in your backstage kit. I'm going to tell you everything that you need to be successful if you're working a dresser job. And I'm going to go through each fun little thing that's in here. Before COVID happened, I worked on Hamilton, Chicago. It was really fun. It was super challenging. Now it's COVID and I don't have a job, so cool. What you need in a kit if you are a dresser, just a dresser, not a stitcher, for theater, not film or television. What I have is an art bin. So you can see I've adorned my box with fun stickers to make it my own, and then it's really identifiable. It isn't too heavy, so it's very easy to take this from job to job. Hamilton was a long-running job. I was there for nearly a year and a half, so you kind of tend to settle in on a little bit more in a different way than if you're working, say, like a 2-week job that's maybe a traveling show that comes through, or if there's like a more limited run like a Joffrey Ballet show. So let's get started and let's talk about it. So it's got this cool flap, and then in the top I just tend to keep smaller things like pens, pencils, things like that. There's this other just really nice heavy duty latch, and that flips open like this. And then there's a tray, and I tend to keep, you know, like medium-sized-ish things in there. Quite a large area in the bottom. So I'm gonna literally unpack everything that's in this box. I'm gonna tell you everything that you need to be successful if you're working a dresser job for theater. The first thing that I have in the very top are pens, pencils, markers, having Sharpies and pencils, you know, preferably a mechanical pencil because you're not gonna have access to a pencil sharpener. I really prefer having a pencil because, like, a lot of times if I'm taking notes on a track that I'm learning, which I'll explain what that is a little bit later, if you write it in pen, then you're just gonna end up like chicken scratching. But I mean, it's helpful to have a pen too, and then always Sharpie markers, and those come in handy pretty much in any theater job or television or film job that you're working, so keep a ton of those. It's nice to have an eraser, you don't really have to. Depending on the theater that you're going to be working, some of them have lockers for you to use to put your belongings in. We didn't at Hamilton, but if you have a locker, just get one of these. The other thing that I had is clothespins. You are working a long show, especially. One of our responsibilities was to check all the costumes for repairs. There are so many people and so many moving parts working backstage at a theater that maybe a button would fall off something and you would mention to someone else, hey, when you're here tomorrow, a button fell off of this jacket or whatever. That person is never gonna remember. Take a clothespin, clip it onto the affected area, then you can be like, I put a clothespin on the repair, done. And you're not gonna miss it if you see that like hanging off of something or whatever. This kind of goes without saying, keeping a needle and a thread. And working at Hamilton, it was always the same colors. Parchment color, purple, Jefferson coat. We had a full-time stitcher, so she had a full array of different threads and needles and things like that. So another thing is keeping bandages and Neosporin on you. Most theaters have several first aid kits like all over the place, but sometimes it's nice to have your own. If you are bleeding, you don't want to be getting that on costumes. So the other thing that would have to do with sewing is keeping a thimble. I poked a needle from the eye end, not the pokey end, through my finger. It doesn't feel good. So keeping a thimble on hand is really, really great. The other thing that I usually keep but I don't use a lot are straight pins. Sometimes I use them while I'm repairing things, but you never really want to stick them in a costume and then hand it off to somebody else, because I can't even tell you how many straight pins I found that I did not put into a costume. I just like to keep them around. All right, so that's the top part. I think that it's really important to have things at the theater that make you feel like you're at home. Keeping like a really good trail mix. The other thing that I'm like known for is M&Ms. I keep a container of all sizes of safety pins. If a button fell off, you could safety pin the button to like the shoulder so it's really visible. The person who's repairing the costume doesn't have to go hunting for another button or whatever. I always keep deodorant, So you might have already worked 12 hours before you're even coming in contact with the actors. Going along with deodorant is to keep a toothbrush at the theater, especially if you're a principal dresser, because you're going to be like right in their face so much. So the other things that I like to keep are charger with washi tape on it, so that you can identify that it's yours very quickly. It's for the people that are like you know, if you're there just like, hey, do you have a scissor? They can dig in and then they know like this is a paper scissor, so then it's clearly marked on there. Measuring tape. And this is more for TV, but tags to write either sizes or repairs. The other thing that I like to have is a nail file. It's so annoying to have to like work 2 shows and you can't do anything about it, or you have to run to CVS. You have to have it. Headlamp. Batteries, extra batteries for it. If I had to run a show and I didn't have a headlamp, I kind of don't know what I would do, because you can use it to read your notes. You can use it to light the stairs for someone, literally anything. Other people like bite lights. I started using those when I started at Hamilton, and I noticed that I was really nervous about getting the change right, and it was really fast, quick change, that I was biting so hard on my bite light that I was like, I think I'm gonna cause dental problems. A pair of black shoes. These are the shoes that I use. They're Stan Smiths. I didn't always wear black shoes, but I always keep these at the theater. And I mean, like, they're barely worn on the bottom because I only wear them inside. These help you like feel the floor better. Sometimes if I wore shoes, like running shoes that had like a bigger back end, all the up and down the stairs that we were doing made me feel unstable. So I actually really prefer to have more of a flat shoe. Something that's like, you know, really nice and grippy on the bottom and ties and is black. These were by far my favorite. The other thing that I kept at the theater were extra pairs of socks. Sticky notes, I mean, why would you be without them? I was a swing dresser on Hamilton, which means that I wasn't assigned one particular role. I knew all of the dresser track roles, and so I was kind of like an understudy, I guess is what you could say. So I always kept these. I have one for every single dresser track. I have all 8 of them. There's 8 dresser tracks at Hamilton, Chicago. It's got all of the changes in there that I was responsible for. They're all in here, and all of the things that you do to like preset the costumes and get the costumes ready at the top of the show when you had your prep time. I would keep all of them at the theater because there were a few times when I would go to the theater and something funky would happen and I was expecting to be one dresser, and then I would get switched to a different role, and then whichever track I happened to be doing, so this one is a men's ensemble track, well, I would just open them to the page and then stick it in my apron. This was kind of like my cheat sheet, but sometimes there would be another swing that maybe they forgot theirs, or they had done a track a while ago and the track had maybe changed or morphed a little bit. I always would keep a book or a project like knitting or something like that, because you are working very hard, but there are a few times when you have a little downtime. Having a book is really nice because, you know, surfing Instagram can get really, really boring. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much everything that I keep in my kit. Comment down below, like, subscribe. If you work in theater, I would love to know what you keep in your kit. If you don't work in theater and this is a whole new thing for you, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about all these things. You're probably just like,